Hey guys, welcome back to the workshop. Thought I'd do a nice little simple, easy little project today out of some stuff I got lying around. My boys like hanging out in my workshop. Coming here, spending time with Dad and building stuff. And right now to get to the anvils and things, they got this crummy little store-bought plastic step stool. And that just, I think, won't do. So, I'm gonna make them a couple of step stools. I've got this old shelf board that was left lying around by some previous owners of the house. It's got some ugly finish on it. It's got some ugly, poorly routed in trim on it, but I'm going to cut all that off and we're going to make 2 step stools out of this material. I hope I got enough. I think I've got enough. We'll see how it goes. But I'll guide you through it step by step and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so the first step in this is I'm going to rip these boards to 7 inches wide. That's going to get rid of the edge detailing that was put on this shelf material by somebody else. I don't really want it on my step stool, so I'm going to rip that off, which will get the boards down to the size we need. Just double checking my measurement against the fence here. My fence isn't super accurate, so just double checking to make sure that cut's going to be the size I want. Okay, now that those pieces are all squared up, I'm going to mark out the piece I need for the top. You need a 14-inch piece for the top of each stool. I'm going to mark that out. See if we need enough through the brace. There's a cross brace piece here that needs to come on, but that can get split in half afterwards. This is really just a layout to give me an idea if I'm going to have enough. I'm going to explain all these parts and then we'll just go ahead and do it all in the magical time warp land of video editing. There's two 14-inch pieces, should be 2 tops. Again, it doesn't matter that they're off a little bit because that's going to get squared up the table saw. This is just for my own measurements. And then I need 2 8-inch pieces for each stool. Those are going to be the legs for each stool. So what I'm going to do, my other piece, this will be easier to mark off. Because I'm a dummy and doing math on the fly while on camera is not my strong suit. So 8, 16, 24, and 32 will give me all 4 legs for both stools. As long as my math holds out, I think it does. We should be okay. That means the 2 braces we need get cut off the leftover end of the first piece there on this piece here. What I'll do is I'll show you all the measurements for this and what you need in case you want to make your own. I ripped these to 7 inches wide. That's mainly because of what I'm working with. The pattern calls for 8-inch wide, but how many people have 8-inch stuff lying around their workshops? So, and if you do, it's usually in small offcuts and things we got left over. Okay, so I'm going to cut these out and then I'll show you the braces. Now the braces going between the legs need to be 11.5 inches long and 3 inches wide. So that's why we can rip this out of the 1-inch section here. I'm going to mark off 11.5 inches. And again, these are all just for reference. You probably saw when I was making that cut for the leg pieces, or for the tops. When I cut them out, my lines weren't exactly where the cut ended up, right? Which is okay because I don't have to, it's not like I'm cutting with a circular saw and I need to take the line or cross the line or do whatever. I know that the fence is set to 8 inches or whatever the measurement was. So in this case for the top, it's 14 inches long. So I know those pieces are 14 inches. It doesn't matter that the line's still there or not. So that's just what I need to do. So I know that this piece here, I ripped these to 7 inches wide, and the braces each need to be 3 inches wide. So I know I can easily get the brace material from what I have here, and then I'll get this. This will just be an extra cutoff piece. So for the legs here, I went to, these are, I'll have to cut these down to 6 1/4 wide, and I'll explain why later. So there's still some work to do on the legs. The top pieces are cut. I'm gonna cut the braces, and then we'll be on to sanding and assembly. It's a really quick project. Alright, so for this next step, we're going to mark out the detailing that's going to happen on the legs. I've done it on these other ones here. So we're going to cut an angle onto the legs and a circle in the bottom for a bit of detailing. Now the reason, this is 7 inches wide and 8 inches long. The reason you want 8 is because when you cut this angle in here, both these ends come in 1/2 inch, so that the final size is 7, so that the top will fit and everything will kind of size in nicely. So, get your old handy combination square here, ruler. Set it to 1/2 inch. I account for the width of my pencil mark, so that's at 1/2 inch. And then I mark the other side, a little more challenging now because I want you to be able to see it. And now I'm going to draw a line from the edge of that down to the corner. I'm going to account for the width of my pencil again so that I know that when I take my skill saw to this momentarily, I want to take the line. So I want to cut right to the inside edge of that line, and then that way that'll get me the size I want. Now I could have sanded this all ahead of time and gotten rid of this finish on it. I'm sure some would say I should have because it would have protected my blades and so on. Well, next time. Next thing you want to do for that circle is you're going to want to find center. Now if you can't find center on an 8-inch board, well, you got issues, but I'll tell you anyway. Mark off 4 inches. I mark from both sides just in case. And look, the lines both overlap on center. Now take your compass. Hopefully you've got a better one than this. This is an old high school set that I found in a drawer. It's not exactly the most accurate. It's hard to maintain, you know, but for this where you're gonna have, it's just a layout mark and you're gonna have, you know, a lot of cuts and sanding and stuff to clean it up, that's fine. So you lay out this is a 2-inch radius, which will get you a 4-inch diameter half circle. And you mark that out. This is really handy if you're dealing with uneven wood. It adds a bit of an aesthetic value. You could do that as a triangle, you can do it as half a hexagon, you could cut that detailing in however you want. I often do the hexagonal look. But what helps you out on curved and warped wood is these are the only points of contact with the ground, the feet. So it's much easier to level off, you know, the 4 small feet sections on a stool versus trying to level off this whole board if you're dealing with uneven material. And you can see this has got a bit of a cup in it. But that'll help. All right, after a quick trip to my spindle sander, the legs have all got sanded to shape. Didn't film it, it's boring, it's hard to see anyway, but I took all the, sanded all the edges down, they're all flat. The feet are all now flat, matched to each other, so is the top. And I sanded the inside of that radius. Now, at this step, you could call it done. Sand and assemble as you will. I'm gonna go one little step further and I'm gonna round over pretty much all the edges. The only edges I'm not gonna touch is the top edge of the brace and the top edge of the leg, because that way when they assemble, these square edges will sit square on the underside of the top plate. But everything else I'm going to round over just because I like the aesthetic. And you can either go that way, you don't have to. I find it's a softer edge. You don't tend to, you know, bang your toes in. It doesn't hurt as much. I don't know. Anyway, you do you. All right, so any of you who know me in person know I have a real dislike for technology, or it dislikes me anyway. I had this awesome 5-minute section here showing how I laid out all these holes and how I drilled all the pilots and everything, and then realized 30 seconds in, my phone ran out of memory. So I'll do a quick recap. I drilled all the holes for all the building it. I countersunk them all. These are for number 10 screws that I'll be using. So I centered them for the legs. I centered them on the pieces, stuck them together like that. The braces that are going on here are 3 inches wide. So I went down 3 inches, went 3/4 of an inch from the top, 3/4 of an inch from the bottom, drilled a hole. I drilled them, the 2 pieces stacked together, so that the 2 pieces translated. And that way, when I flip them, I countersunk the corresponding holes on the other side so that they match, okay? That's how I did the legs. One thing about the brace, when I was talking about the areas I should or should not have rounded over, I got a little overzealous. These areas here I should not have rounded over, because now they've got a bit of a wiggle and a woggle when I, that's what I'm looking for, assemble, geez. When I assemble the stools, they wobble a little bit. So don't round over these edges on the brace. Really, if you're gonna do the round over, just do the bottom edge so that when it sits in, top's there, that's the only edge it's seen anyway. For the top, I've got my countersunk holes drilled. So with the measurements, this board is 14 inches. Assembled with the brace and the legs, this is 13 inches all told, long, right? When you put the legs and the brace together like so, it's 13 inches. So what that means is that leaves you with 1/2 inch extra on either side of the board. All right, so you trace out 1/2 inch, account for your pencil mark, add 3/4 of an inch, which accounts for the width of your material, and that gives you the location area of where your legs should sit. And then I drilled 2 pilot holes. These are 1.5 inches from each end. I could have put a third one in the center, however these boards are kind of cupped and I'm not going to bother trying to get into the cross brace, just because these boards are too cupped to allow that. So with nice flat wood I would have put 1 or 2 into the center brace, but it's not going to matter. And then flip them over, this is going to be the top, so I just countersunk those holes. You could also, I thought about doing 3/8 plugs. Right, so drilling a 3/8 hole and then drilling your pilot and then cutting out plugs and filling and all that. But I thought for a shop stool that might be, might be a little bit much, especially because my 4- and 2-year-olds won't notice. So the next step you're going to see now, we're almost in the home stretch. I'm going to give all these things a nice sanding. I'm going to start to 80. I'm probably going to go up to 220 grit, so 80, 150, or 180, somewhere in there. I like to skip steps. I know you shouldn't, but it's a shop project. So, oh, we're getting a hell of a storm here. I'm going to do 80 grit, probably stop somewhere in the middle at 150, 180, depending what I have more pads for, and then I'm going to do a good 220, and then we'll assemble it and then finish it. So here comes the sanding. Engage the time lapse. Hey guys, if you're watching all the way in here, thank you so much for watching this whole video. It's a quick little easy one-day project. Make a stool for your kids. It took me most of the day. I mean, making 2 of them and filming at the same time takes twice as long. You're talking a couple hours, that's it. Easy peasy, you don't need that much in the way of tools. It's fun. Hopefully the boys will get to use them for a good long while and they'll show a little bit more excitement than the workbench I built them. We'll see what happens. Obviously it's no complex project. I'm no samurai carpenter. I'm no carpenter at all. I'm just I'm a redneck in his garage who likes to make stuff. Probably the best description. Anyway, stick around, check out a few more videos, and we'll see you the next time. Thanks a lot.